People often talk about the thrill of the chase, but if you got one of these on your tail, you'll soon become the kill of the chase. This right here is the Atrociraptor, a truly tenacious hunter, and it is simply relentless. At least, that's what I'm told. I don't intend to find out firsthand.
The Australovenator has been labelled the cheetah of its time, and I can certainly see why. Here we have a hunter with terrific speed, power, and focus. The makeup of a perfect prehistoric predator, really. Just don't get spotted, because there's no way you're going to outrun this one.
This dinosaur is important for a number of reasons. I mean, they're all important, but this one, the Deinonychus, was the center of debate among paleontologists for many years. Specifically, were the dinosaurs cold-blooded or warm-blooded animals? With them alive and in the park, we have our answer. This dinosaur is one of the earliest known animals, dating back to perhaps 216 million years ago. It's called Coelophysis. Their remains can be found scattered across the globe. But if people want to see a Coelophysis up close, this is the only place to do it.
The Compsognathus is a small predator, but don't let its stature fool you. It can be a ruthless hunter.
I finally get it. I finally understand why people have a fear of the dark. Once you peer into the shadows and see a pair of Dimetrodon eyes staring back at you, well, you'll be having nightmares for years. That's if you're lucky enough to walk away, because believe me, not everybody is.
Ancient mythology may not be my speciality, but I've been told that Moros Intrepidus was named after the Greek deity Moros, the personification of impending doom. It was said that he gave people the ability to foresee their demise. And if you come face to face with this tyrannosaur, I suspect there is a good chance you will meet your fate.
If you ask me, I think this animal gets a bad rap. Back when fossils were all scientists had to go on, this Mongolian dune dweller was branded an egg thief. But you know what? It was really just looking out for its own. So as far as I'm concerned, the Oviraptor is all right in my books. You've successfully introduced a new dinosaur, a Proceratosaurus. This animal is instantly recognizable by the colorful crest on its snout. While smaller in stature than some of the other predators, it is not a dinosaur to be taken lightly, let me tell you.
There's certainly something special about this one. Je ne sais quoi. It's a pyroraptor. Had it not been for a forest fire sweeping through southern France, my little feathered friend here may have gone undiscovered. And my life insurance would be just that little bit cheaper.
Decades of scientific innovation have made this very moment possible. Paleocuration is rarely straightforward, but is always immensely rewarding, so it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Stegosaurus.
You might think that the Sinosauropteryx is the perfect size for a cute plushie to take home. But this dinosaur is a pretty mean hunter for something so small. Trust me, you really don't want this one snapping at your heels.
Personally, I don't think the Troodon gets as much respect as it should. It's one of those dinosaurs that seems like an evolutionary bridge, stuck in time and transition. The platypus of its day. And now, ours. It's also incredibly interesting to study and display, so make the most of this animal.
Aha! This one takes us back to prehistoric Utah. I definitely wouldn't want to meet this raptor out on a camping trip, would you, huh? Because if it's distant relatives or anything to go by, the Utah raptor will make a meal of anything it can get its claws on.
Everyone knows I have a soft spot for this dinosaur, the Velociraptor, and they get a bad rap as far as I'm concerned. But if you imprint early enough, you can make real connections with them. Other than Claire, raptors are the most intelligent partners I've ever had. And like her, they could kill me in the blink of an eye. That's a joke.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome an Albertosaurus to the park.
Every dinosaur that's recreated is important, but some also capture our imaginations. The Allosaurus is one such animal. It is believed that in its original environment, it was squarely at the top of the food chain. I'm interested to discover if that's true, given the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome an Allosaurus to the park. We are pleased to welcome a tourist to the park.
Now, this dinosaur is something special. Well, they're all something special, but this one stands out because of the horns on top of its head. It's called Ceratosaurus. It kind of looks like a slightly smaller T-Rex, but its bite is probably about the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a concavinator to the park.
This is a Cryolophosaurus, one of the more colorful members of the collection. It's a carnivore, so take the necessary precautions and don't let its looks deceive you. I was pretty relieved when I found out the Gigantoraptor wasn't actually some kind of gigantic velociraptor. That would have been a recipe for disaster. What we have here is actually more like an oversized oviraptor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome an indoraptor to the park. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Majungasaurus to the park.
Anytime you hear the word mega, you know you're dealing with something significant. And the Megalosaurus is no different. This meat-eating theropod dominates any environment it finds itself in. While that's an admirable survival trait, it's also one that we cannot accept here at the park. I want to make that clear.
Let me introduce you to the Metriacanthosaurus. Say that fast 3 times. This is another alpha predator that, while not as big as some of its cousins, tends to stand more upright. So I guess it has good posture while it's tearing you to shreds.
The Changosaurus. Neat. Really great that we're bringing back all these fast, hungry predators. Even better that I get to stay in the office with locks on the doors.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Scorpius Rex to the park.
The Eutyrannus. The feathered tyrant brought so much excitement, so much intrigue to the scientific community when it was first discovered. And here we find ourselves in the presence of that illustrious tyrannosaur. Just don't be too surprised if it ruffles a few feathers, okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Baryonyx to the park. Gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Spinoraptor to the park.
This dinosaur has a skull similar to a crocodile's, and a disposition that isn't that far off either. The Suchomimus originally fed on fish and small prey. Let's make sure it doesn't expand its diet into two-legged animals wearing collector t-shirts.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Giganotosaurus to the park. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Giganotosaurus to the park.
There isn't a more iconic dinosaur than the T-Rex. Even people who don't know the difference between herbivore and carnivore know all about the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And when you see her up close, Feel her gaze? You understand why the T-Rex was the ruler of the Cretaceous period.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Tarbosaurus to the park.
This bipedal predator is called the Acrocanthosaurus, and it is a dinosaur that has what I like to refer to as presence. When it's around, you know it. This animal should make for a killer exhibit. I mean, it being a killer and all.
Now, stay with me. This dinosaur is called a Carcharodontosaurus. Talk about a mouthful, right? And seeing that this animal is an alpha predator, its mouth is usually full of the slow, the weak, and the inattentive. Hence the reason I'm not getting near it. You, on the other hand,